Good day, everybody. It's Christian Jarvis, Senior Investment Advisor, Canaccord Genuity, Vancouver, and head of the Jarvis Wealth Management Group. I hope that everybody is having a wonderful day. In today's video, we're going to cover the topic of wills and estates. I did cover this topic a couple of years ago, but I felt that it was time for a refresh to our video. Now, when it comes to wills, my belief is that it should be a part of any overall wealth management strategy, and within that strategy is the tax and estate planning piece, and again within that is the will piece. So it is a document that clearly outlines how your estate will be distributed after you pass, and again having one clearly articulated and done properly can make it a heck of a lot easier for your beneficiaries that are going to inherit your estate and try to distribute the assets accordingly. Now, over the years, we've been, doing our financial practice. We're no longer surprised by how many people actually do not have an up-to-date will in place. So for those of you that don't have one in place, don't feel too badly. Just want you to know that it is fairly common. And even for those that do have them in place, some of them have not been updated for a very long period of time, which is something important we'll get to in a moment. But just know that as important as the document is, there are many people that actually do not have an up-to-date one in place. Now, it's not surprising. The topic of death or your death or someone else's death close to you and how assets are going to be distributed is not exactly an easy topic to deal with at the best of times. So that is one of the reasons wills do not get written up. And at the end of the day, you do have to think of it as probably one of the best gifts you can give your family members and heirs. And that is a clearly articulated document letting them know how you would like your asset to be dealt with after you pass. Now, just jumping back to estate planning in general, which again is attached to the will. One of the big areas that needs to be looked at are taxes. I mean, many estates get taxed considerably. Now, up here in Canada, unlike our counterparts down south, we actually do not have any additional estate taxes. But that said, if you own a portfolio of securities in a non-registered plan that have grown in value over time, or you own a cottage or an investment property that's risen in value over time, upon the death of the second spouse, those assets are going to face a deemed disposition, meaning that capital gain is going to be triggered. And as far as the RIF and RSPs go, those are going to come into income, again, on death of the second spouse. They're going to come into the estate as full income and be taxed at the top marginal rate. So that alone is worthwhile of having a conversation just to make sure that those outstanding taxes are addressed and proper solutions can be put in place to minimize those. Otherwise, the beneficiaries of the estate may be faced with having to sell assets off to cover the bill that's going to be put forward by the CRA. Now, one of the most common questions we get from individuals and clients is what happens if you do pass on without a will in place or an up-to-date will. Well, let's just say if you don't have a will in place, period, as a more dramatic example. Things often don't go well. What would happen in that case is the province you live in has a set of prescribed rules that they're going to follow, and they're basically going to decide and determine how your estate is going to be distributed. Not usually the desired outcome for someone after they pass. The other thing is if you don't have any next of kin and you haven't clearly documented in a will how you would like your estate to be distributed or dealt with, believe it or not, depending on the province you live in, a lot of your assets and estate can actually end up in provincial coffers. Again, passing on with a will intestate, as we call it, not having a valid will in place, and these two possible results are definitely not what most people would like or how they would like their estate to be handled should they pass on. Now, drafting a will does not have to be complicated. It can actually be as simple as just jotting your wishes down on paper, on the back of a napkin, so to speak. We call these holograph or holographic wills. Now, they're not recognized in every province, so you want to make sure you use the rules relevant to your province, or follow the rules, I should say. I by no means think this is the best method, but just know that is a method that can be used. There are also will kits available. You've seen them probably at local drugstores and stationery stores. Those can be used as well. I think those might be okay for very simple estates. However, if it does come to something more complicated involving multiple beneficiaries or reasonable or significant assets, at that stage, I do think it makes sense to involve a professional, an estate lawyer, tax and estate lawyer, to make sure that the will is properly drafted, it's properly witnessed, it's going to be an ironclad document that is truly going to lead to a result of having your estate wound up exactly the way you would like it to be dealt with. Now, once a will is put in place and it's become part of your overall tax and estate plan and your wealth management plan, and your lawyer has been involved, and your financial planner and your investment advisor, we all tend to work together on these things. Once it's in place, it is a document that should be reviewed fairly regularly. And by that, I mean, it's not every 6 to 12 months, but every sort of few years, you do want to go through the will and make sure that it still makes sense, it's up to date, especially if there have been material changes. Maybe there's been a marriage or a divorce involved with some of your beneficiaries, or maybe your executor that you had named has passed on or has had a major change in their life, and it may make sense to consider naming another executor. Executor, by the way, is the individual that will oversee and execute your will and make sure that your instructions are followed to the T completely, and make sure that your estate is wound up to completion. So again, as mentioned, it is very important to make sure the document is reviewed every few years, especially if there have been material changes, just to make sure that everything is up to date. Now, as with most of our videos, I did want to just keep this brief and simple and give people a general idea about wills, what their function is, how they work, how they do differ a bit from province to province. And the main point being, as I said earlier, it is really a gift to your beneficiaries and heirs to reduce the sort of strife and confusion that can come about when someone does pass away without a valid and up-to-date will in place. It really is an important document that should be considered. So just wanted to make that clear. I'm going to leave it at that. We're always open to questions and queries. We do have an incredible tax and estate planning team here. Although we don't draft wills per se, we do have a good network of lawyers that we work with that can assist in this regard. So as always, I invite people to reach out at any time if they would like to learn any more about wills, tax and estate planning, this topic in general, or any other topics that we've discussed on our channel. Thanks so much. Wishing everyone a wonderful day. And until next time, we will be in touch soon. Take care.